At the end of the year, I often become reflective and sentimental. This year, 2025, I'm even more reflective, sentimental, and grateful. What a year! It's been amazing to travel the journey of the kidney transplant with Deb and with my chosen family, friends, and community. And today I'm reflecting on community. What does that mean? Community means different things to different people. At one time, the community was literally the area that you lived. It involved little different sections and special communities like your church and your school, your immediate family, your neighborhood grocery store. We weren't as transient, so community was much more localized. And then as we became more transient, communities became broader, bigger things, and we had to find them and make them and create them. And sometimes it was sports or hobbies or special interest, and other times it may be self help and recovery groups, spiritual communities, something that was outside of your immediate living area, yet helped you feel connected. And in the technical age, a lot of communities are actually online. But that's the thing, right? Is community what we want? Is a sense of connectiveness, a sense that we matter and people know that and they love us and they care for us and we care for them. Over the past decades, there's been a big push of trying to create communities around where we live. The suburbs with the HOAs and the CNRs got us sort of disconnected from a real sense of community, and we have a longing for that. So we started talking about intentional communities. Oddly, some of the first intentional communities were actually the golf communities. It was the idea that you have a centralized concept that people all agreed on, and that's why they came. And that evolved into like the 55 plus communities and eventually into the intentional communities that were surrounded around the environment. And now we have agrihoods, and that's where I live, an agrihood. What's interesting is Deb and I moved to Asheville, North Carolina in 2003 with the intent of creating an intentional community. My idea was to buy a farm and create examples of eco green homes that surrounded the farm and that we would all be together and preserve the farm. Now, that was before there was a word of agrihoods or a concept of that. And as that vision became more of a maybe, Deb and I started talking to a development consultant. And Deb quickly realized that she did not want to be a developer. She said, Mary, I support you in your dream, but I don't want to be a part of it. And that was very clear to me that if she wasn't a part of my dream, then I didn't want to be a developer either. So what we did is we sat back and we watched as many other intentional communities surrounded around an environmental concept, whether that was conservation or small community gardens, something like that, as they were being built. And I participated in many a charrette and led some charrettes on these communities, and I watched some grow and thrive and then eventually become something else. I watched some not get off the ground. I watched some be a community and then absolutely end up not liking each other. There's been a few examples of how it's worked, and it's worked well. The biggest thing I would say is growth pains and what happens with them during that time. And I live in Olivette and Riverside community. It's an agri-hood in Asheville, North Carolina, and I absolutely adore it. I've made several videos about how much I love it, and it's on my YouTube sites. And our community is something special. One of the things that, of course, we have the shared vision of a farm, an organic farm, and being able to eat directly from the land and to know our farmers and to help each other. We also have the shared vision of conservation and nature and walking trails. And something else that was intentionally created was the concepts of hamlets rather than calling them cul-de-sacs. A hamlet was designed to be about 25 homes in each hamlet. And the developers built out the hamlets very slowly so residents could get to know each other. And this concept has worked very well because each hamlet has become very close-knit, because that's where you walk your dog every day, that's where you get to know your neighbors. And then we've had intentional shared community events together and taken advantage of our social media, WhatsApps, and different avenues with that to talk to each other about what's coming. And each hamlet has its own flavor and its own specialty. And I've got to say, I'm incredibly grateful for my hamlet specifically, and grateful for all of that and how they have helped Deb and me during this past year. We're really appreciative of that. Also, our neighborhood was amazing during the hurricane, and we really came together. And now we are in our own midst of growing pains. Our geographical development has gotten much bigger. Our population is shifting from where we knew each other when they moved in to so many people is moving in that we don't know who they are until a long time out. Deb and I personally have not been able to interact with our neighbors the way we would have pre kidney transplant. Now we have to be very careful to make sure that Deb doesn't get sick or anything and reject her kidney. So that's caused us to not be able to participate in big events, but to get to know more and more of our neighbors individually. Yet, one of the things that's going on with our community right now is just this whole, it's growing pains, right? What's going to happen to our community? What has happened to our community? Where do we want to go? How much say do we as homeowners actually have within the development process? And what I see and what I think about is, how can we keep this sense of unity and of love and compassion with our neighbors as we move through the fear of unknown and new people with new ideas. You know, do we keep that same value? Is that there? How do we express that in a kind manner and still listen to others with different opinions? I think that's what community really is, right? Is the ability to know that we can express ourselves truly and openly and that we are heard, and at the same time the ability to reflect upon the comments and wants and thoughts of our neighbors. Really is about living with each other in compassionate love. And at the end of 2025, I am excited to see how we, as our neighborhood, our community at Olivette, navigate, transition, and create in 2026.